Shalom, welcome to our daily class on Patreon, Rebbe Nachman. We are in Likutei Moharan and Torah Vav. I just gave an extensive introduction to this amazing Torah, and I was hoping that some of you would get that introduction live on Facebook. We're going to begin the class in earnest on at the very beginning, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe Kara el Yeshua. So God said to Moses, call to Yeshua. Now, Kriya is an interesting language for sharing. It's not like speech, which is dibur. It's not like saying, which is la'amor, amira. Kriya is calling out in a sense of bringing someone from afar and bringing them close and bringing them to you. And certainly this was part of Moshe's job because he was Yeshua's big teacher. And Yeshua eventually was, of course, going to take over leading the Jewish people into the land of Israel. So let's keep that idea in mind as we go through this Torah. It's going to take a few days, I'm sure. We spent 20 days on the last two Torahs, and there's work to be done. But this Torah teaches us really how we continuously enter the cycle of tshuva. I like to call it the dynamo of the ego, because you're constantly turning like a dynamo, the higher self, the lower self, the higher self, the lower self. And eventually you get this rhythm of tshuva that teaches us, well, a higher way of being. And that's what we're here for. In the first paragraph, Aleph, Ki tzarich kol adam leme'et kavod atzmo. Every person needs to diminish his own honor. And to increase in the honor of God. Because somebody who goes after kavod, somebody who runs after honor will not merit to the honor of Hashem. The honor of Hashem is an extremely high quality. Kavod is a nickname for the Shekhinah. Kavod is a word that the Kabbalah uses to designate Tiferet, which is the beauty in the heart. And so it also is Gematria 32, the heart, Kavod. So we want to diminish our Kavod and increase the Kavod of God. And if a person goes after Kavod, what does he get? Well, he calls it the Kavod of kings. And the Kavod of kings, well, we know how long that lasts, just as long as they're in the chair. The minute you're out of the throne, they forget you very fast. It says about kavod melochim hakor davar. King Solomon, who was considered one of the greatest kings, if not the wisest, greatest king of all, he said, well, the kavod of kings, you know what they do there? They investigate you. They're always checking you out. Sound familiar? Any politicians out there know what that's like? You get a phone, your phone doesn't stop ringing from every investigative reporter service in the world. Wants to know who you are, what you're doing, why, etc. That's Hoker Davar. They're checking you out. They don't trust you. And that's Kavod Melachim, the honor of kings. V'akal Hokri Macharav. He brings the famous verse from Megillat Esther. Of course, and this is the line of Ahashverosh himself, who says after Esther reveals that there is somebody trying to destroy the Jewish people in the Persian Empire, the king of Persia says, who is this guy? And then Esther reveals, of course, Haman. So this is the idea of Kavod Melachim Choker Davar. The honor of kings is always investigated. It is not a pure higher honor. The honor of a grandfather, the honor of the chief rabbi. There's a certain type of honor where you have to trust a certain level of, that if it's your grandfather, you show him honor because of his very position. And if it's the chief rabbi, you want to assume that he's gotten there on good deeds and not any other way. Okay. So when they ask about this, when they give out this kind of kavod, they want to know why he got it. Because people are jealous of kavod. They all want the glory. And you might think, well, I'm not such a person. I don't want the glory. But, there's all kinds of subtle little ways of getting glory. There's the glory of running for office. There's the glory of of being the boss of your company. There's the glory of sitting on a bench at the beach and talking Torah on Facebook and on Patreon. But hopefully these glories are bound to the proper glory of the great tzaddikim who gave us these Torahs. I happen to be the lucky guy in the right place at the right time to learn this material and be able to share it. And they're all asking about him. And then, of course, after they asked, they're holek. They said, no, wait a minute, I don't agree with him about this policy, and I don't agree with this part of the story, and I know where he's really from, and I know what he was like in college, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not just that they're asking, they're going to argue. And they're going to bring everything down to a very base level, which we see in the media over and over today. So if you want the kavod of kings, you should know what you're getting into. It's not too sweet, in my opinion. And they tell you this person is not fitting for the glory. But now here's the secret. The person who runs from the kavod, a person who really is not interested in being so famous and known and etc., guess what happens to him? He diminishes his own kavod, and he increases God's glory. What happens? Then he will merit to the honor of God, which is another thing altogether. And then people don't investigate his glory or his honor. Isn't that interesting? That when it's God's glory, people leave him alone. When it's man's glory, everybody's in on the action. And they don't ask whether he's really fitting in the glory of Hashem. And about him is written, Kavod Elohim haster davar. And the honor of God is to hide something. So God himself remains hidden for most of creation. He only comes out once in a while. Why? Because that's his glory, to stay hidden. And in the most valuable things that you have in your life, you keep them hidden. You don't go wearing your expensive diamond necklace everywhere you go, or your expensive diamond watch, or whatever it is. Those things you stay hidden, the family heirlooms, etc. Very wealthy people, they have their own galleries, their own treasuries, etc. It's all the same idea that kavod Elohim laster davar. The honor of kings is to hide things of value. And what is more valuable to a person than his good name? So if you go out in the world and shout people how great you are, that's a good way to get investigated. But if you stay quiet and humble and small and, don't go out on the bandwagon of promoting one's own ego, then there's a chance we could actually increase God's glory and not our own. So this kavod Elohim haster davar, the glory of God, is a hidden thing. Ki asur lachkor lakavod hazeh. Now the Rebbe takes it another step. He says it's forbidden to hakor. That we're not allowed to go and start asking about God's glory. We're not allowed to say, is God really worthy of being God? Is he really all what people say he is? Is God as great as the religious people of the centuries and the generations really what he says? The minute we ask that question, we're actually causing a defect in the glory of Hashem. We're bringing down his name. And if we say it in public, it's even worse. And you notice a lot of famous people, when they start talking about God, they get in trouble. And bad things happen. Because a famous person is interconnected to many other souls. And when he has influence, and that influence is negative about God, it causes, negative reverberations in their lives. And we've seen it publicly in the world in Israel, in the Torah world, and elsewhere. Okay, so that's the first short paragraph, and I think it gives us some very basic ideas that we're going to keep developing for the next several paragraphs and pages. And if we can just, it's interesting because when I first heard this, I said, oh, this is great. We want to increase God's glory and diminish our glory. It sounds great until we actually find out how do you diminish your glory. Because it's not an easy thing to do. And what we find out is the way we diminish our glory is being quiet when we're insulted. And this is a hard thing to do. So we're going to begin there tomorrow and continue our daily classes. Check out the live introduction on Facebook public, and we'll see you tomorrow on Patreon. All the best to all of you.